Here we go. This is the inaugural flagship episode of the Talkin' Buds Bill Show. How's it going, everybody? I am Rob Furnish. He is Brian Chalk. I feel like since it's our first episode of launching the new pod brand, we should probably take a minute to get everybody up to speed on us, why we're doing this, what they can expect every week. And so I was kind of racking my brain today, being like, what am I going to say? And basically, this is a Bills fan podcast. We're going to be coming at this every week from the fan perspective. Like Brian is the definitely the super fan out of the two of us, so he'll be getting into the X's and O's a little more, and I'll be sort of more of the host role. But we are members of Bills Mafia, and that is the perspective we're going to come at this with every single week.
Exactly. I'm a lifelong Bills fan. I eat, sleep, breathe Bills. I love Josh Allen. I just love this team. So they're all I really think about, and I consume most of my day, which is Bills information.
And why are we doing this now? Well, we had a previous podcast where we kind of discussed the league as a whole and kind of took it away. And we're like, you know what? I think we need to become more singularly focused. And I think with both of us being from the greater Toronto area, it just made sense to sort of hone in on the Bills. The Bills will always be interesting as long as Josh Allen is under center. So if there was ever a time to get this thing started, I feel like now's the time. And here we are, 2 preseason games in, 1 to go. For all intents and purposes, this is essentially a season preview show that we're doing here. And I don't know. I think there's only one place to start, and that is with this team has been bitten by the injury bug would be an understatement.
I'm questioning their strength and conditioning coaching right now, because this is unheard of. All these injuries popping up left, right, and center. Like, it started with Matt Milano, massive loss. That's probably my biggest loss so far. But I mean, the defense is just getting torn apart. 3 safeties and Mike Edwards hamstring, Cole Bishop's shoulder. Cole Bishop, also our star rookie that we just drafted. Damar Hamlin, experienced guy. He's also with a hamstring. They did return to practice today, Cole Bishop and Hamlin, red-shirted, so I don't expect them to play at all in the last preseason game. McDermott has said that no starters are playing, thank God. Mitch Trubisky's out. Couldn't care less. That guy is a terrible football player.
Yes.
The one that really hurts me, though, is Curtis Samuel. He's got turf toe on a week-to-week basis, and I don't...
Even more than Matt Milano? That hurts you more than Matt Milano?
It does hurt me, because for Matt Milano's situation, there is some linebacker depth there that I've been noticing in preseason, and I think we can get past that. He's a massive piece. I'm not denying that, but with Terrell Bernard, we'll get to Andreessen later. There's a lot of guys emerging that could potentially fill this role, but with Curtis Samuel, I was so excited for him and Shakir in the offense, and that's why I'm really upset.
I don't know, man. Just to go back to Milano there for a second, I saw some pretty doom and gloom, the world is ending takes from Bills Mafia on Twitter last week when it came out that he was out indefinitely.
I initially had the same take because, that's the last thing you want to hear. He was out for most of the season last year. But, there's guys like Dorian Williams, for example. We haven't seen a lot of him. Last year, he did struggle when he took over from Milano with the pass coverage. But he's a great downhill football player. He's a big body guy. We also have Alufo Shio, another rookie coming in who could make some noise. But I think it's Joe Andreessen's to lose at this point. So if he keeps this going in preseason, I might be excited to watch him play, to be honest.
So as the resident diehard true blue member of Bills Mafia, give me your main, aside from the injuries, because we talked about that, what is the main thing standing out to you so far through training camp and 2 preseason games?
The thing that's really standing out to me is the lack of passing offense. That's been a tough thing to watch. I know it's preseason, and historically Josh Allen has not played a ton in preseason, but it's more for the wide receivers. I want them to get a lot of touches and learn the offense. They can't really do that if they're not catching the ball. They're blocking great. That's perfect, but this team is built on the pass, especially with a guy like
So
Josh.
so you're more like it's lack of reps. Like you're not really worried about depth. Like it's not a personnel problem. You're like, we're not getting the reps in preseason. So we're starting behind the 8 ball is where you're coming from with
We are
this.
starting, like, just look at our first receivers right now are Mac Hollins. I like Mac Hollins a lot.
Yeah.
Khalil Shakir, Curtis
Yeah.
Samuel out with turf toe.
Yeah.
Keon Coleman's on the second group. He hasn't looked great. He's
Yeah.
dropping red zone passes. So I'm very concerned with the passing game at the moment. And I know when Josh comes in, this could all change, but at this point in time, you know,
Well, I mean, it's hard to look good when Mitch Trubisky's throwing you the football.
especially the interception he threw, that was
Yeah.
way over the head. I couldn't
Yes.
believe that throw.
And like you tune into the game on Saturday night against the Steelers and you're like, all right, we're gonna get a look at Josh Allen here, and then they pull the plug at the last minute, which I get. Like if I was in their situation, I'd have done the same thing. But man, these preseason games, I've actually flipped on quite a few across the league. They're tough. It's tough. It's tough. When you're going into halftime and it's some of these games are 3-0, some are nothing. It's like you have to be deep in the X's and O's to be really invested in watching some of these preseason games.
And that's what I am. Like, I've just been watching it for personnel reps. Like, I don't really care about the final score. I just want to see how certain players progress.
Yes.
And Mitch Trubisky, clearly, even for quarterback two, I don't want to see him in that role. I'm curious to see what Ben DiNucci can do. We also signed a new guy, Anthony Brown. Don't know much about him.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see what he's like. I'm sure he's going to get a lot of reps in this game coming up. Same with DiNucci, now that he knows the playbook a bit more.
Yep. One guy you didn't mention there, you might have mentioned him and I might have missed it. Going through some of the offensive personnel there that I think everyone is sort of expecting. I actually saw you tweet about him earlier today, is Dalton Kincaid.
Yes, I think Dalton Kincaid is tight end one. I mean, on the depth chart, he's currently tight end one, but he has much better hands. He's stronger. Dawson Knox has been a great guy to have in this squad. I'm not taking anything away from Dawson here, but Dalton Kincaid seems to be on another level. And I think he's going to get a lot of the passes to start the season at least.
Yes.
And Dawson Knox is fantastic at blocking, and I'm hoping Kincaid can learn some of that from Knox, but overall, he's way more athletic.
To me, when you watch him, his ceiling seems a bit higher. Kincaid's ceiling seems a bit higher. Like if he can unlock it, he can pass Knox on the depth chart.
And he's got sort of that Travis Kelce style of tight end.
Yes, that's what I mean. Like the kind of bigger body. Yes.
And Dawson Knox is more on the Gronk side of things. He just likes to hit the body. Gronk was much better on the hands, but you know what I'm saying here. They're kind of different players in that position.
Yes. So as I mentioned off the top, like we're only, I think once we get into the season, we'll start dissecting games week to week and start getting into more game specifics. Like as I said, it's really hard to just break down these mind-numbing preseason games. So one thing I wanted to table with you today, just I thought would be an interesting conversation for our first episode, is what do you think is on the line for Josh Allen this season, like legacy wise? It's a big year for him. It's a big year for him every year, but to get into the playoffs again and to kind of go out with a whimper, it starts to become, and I know obviously it's not, you rarely come away going, oh, it's entirely his fault. But at the end of the day, there's tons of quarterbacks who didn't win in the playoffs, and at the end, like that's their reputation. Oh, he couldn't win the big one, right?
Yeah, and that's what I fear.
Yes.
Especially with this group, it's going to be a challenge to have the same success that we've seen in the past.
Yes.
We're down Gabe Davis, we're down Stephon Diggs, we're down guys that really knew the offense. That being said, Stephon Diggs, I was happy to see him leave, but at the same time, this offense is relatively new, and we're only really have 4 wide receivers that were taken to camp or taken to the season at this point.
Yeah.
Between MVS, Tyrell Shavers, Deon Cain, Damiere Byrd, I'm not really sure who's the 5th and 6th wide receiver at this point. because the Bills are not taking any more than 6 wide receivers. They never do. 5 might even be the number they go with.
Yeah.
So there might only be one number left. And from what I've seen from like MVS and Deion Kane, like I would prefer Tyrell Shavers to really take that role.
Yeah. Yeah. During our last, like when we were doing our previous podcast, I used to talk about Josh Allen and say he's a wild thoroughbred stallion. And you have to tame him, but also allow him to harness. I can speak. Also allow him to harness his talent and what makes him so good. He gets himself into trouble when he makes split decisions out there and makes a bad throw. He gets himself into trouble when he puts himself in position to get hit. But at the same time, that's his style of play, right? Like asking him to be a pure pocket passer is never going to work. Like that's not who he is. So to me, it is on Joe Brady and the rest of the Bills coaching staff this year to just I like that Stephon Diggs is out of the picture personally. Like I think that anytime you can remove, like, yes, Stephon Diggs is a top wide receiver in the league. There's no two ways about it. Nobody's saying anything else. But when you can remove an ego like that and that distraction, and we saw tons of proof in previous years of forcing him the ball and maybe throwing it to him when you had other available options. And I think this year not having that pressure and that personality that you have to sort of appease, I think that there's a scenario where that helps Josh Allen. And I think Joe Brady and the offense need to find a way to harness that. Like Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers are getting ton of hype this year because it's like, oh, they've got so many great young players and so many great young weapons. But the thing that will help him excel is he's not looking for a specific guy. He's looking for the opening guy and he's throwing them the ball. And I think the Bills offense needs to operate that way. Whereas with Stephon Diggs, they really, really, really got away from that.
I couldn't agree more. This actually opens up the offense for a lot more opportunities, even in the run game. Because I felt when Diggs was on the field last year, it was tough to get the run game going because he was the only target and they would have to force feed him the ball. Now we have all these options. We have running backs that can also catch the ball and make dynamic plays. Most teams don't have that luxury. A lot of the running backs are, blockers for the pass game. We have a couple guys in James Cook and Ray Davis that could actually make these kind of plays. Speaking of Ray Davis, I know we're a bit off topic here. I love that man. He's a rookie. He's a fridge. I feel like he is going to be on this team as in a running back 2 position.
Bills Mafia has fallen in love with Ray Davis.
I can't get enough of him. But back to Josh, I do agree. He's going to have so many different options to spread around the offense. So I'm very curious how Joe Brady's going to attack that.
Yes, and you have to play to his strengths. Like you have to allow him. It's funny because it can't all operate through him, but it kind of does have to all operate through him. And you have to find that balance as an offensive coordinator to put him in a position to succeed. Like you can't be looking for him to make these incredible plays drive after drive, but you also kind of have to set him up and put him in a position to make an incredible play and just make sure the rest of the personnel on the offense are doing their job to allow him to be Josh Allen.
Yeah, like when he gets out of the pocket, he can do some amazing things. Again, like you said, he can make some horrendous mistakes, but I would rather throw a couple interceptions and keep him doing that to make the plays that he like hurdling, crazy plays, throwing sideways, going out of bounds. Like that's what makes Josh Allen special.
Well, everyone also looks back on the Daboll era with like such reverence. And I think all Brian Daboll did was he knew how to communicate with Josh Allen and he knew how to scheme an offense to set him up for success. Like we've been talking about, it's really no more when you've got a quarterback, like a lot of people, if you were going to write out a depth chart of quarterbacks in the National Football League, Patrick Mahomes is number 1. And a lot of people would have Josh Allen as number 2.
People being Tom Brady. You see his list come out? He had Josh Allen number 2, and I couldn't agree more.
Yes,
Peyton Manning had him at 5, and I was like, well, I mean, Peyton only won 2 Super Bowls, so.
Yeah, I'd have him, in terms of like pure talent, I'd have him at number 2 as well.
What is your list? Like if you had to do top 5?
Okay, so You caught me off guard with this, Brian. I wasn't prepared to do this, but if we're just gonna wing it here off the top, here's my list: top 5 quarterbacks in the National Football League. Patrick Mahomes, number 1. Josh Allen, number 2. Lamar Jackson, number 3. Joe Burrow, number 4. And like, I want to say, in terms of talent, I really love Justin Herbert. I love the idea of Justin Herbert. I think if you could build a quarterback in a factory, you would build Justin Herbert. But he just hasn't. Maybe Harbaugh will unlock. We're talking about unlocking quarterback potential. Maybe Harbaugh will be able to do it for him. So I don't want to put Justin Herbert in there. Who is number 5? Somebody's watching this and just screaming. I'm gonna have to go with Aaron Rodgers. Probably still just giving him the respect. Like I like just giving it the fact that he's still playing, the fact that if he remains healthy and plays to the best of his ability, I think he's still a top 5 guy. And I think there's other guys right on the cusp. Like CJ Stroud is right on the cusp. Anthony Richardson's right on the cusp. A lot of people think Jordan Love is right on the cusp. That would be my top 5. Okay,
I would agree with your list. Like I have Patrick Mahomes 1, Josh Allen 2. I got Lamar Jackson 3. I got Bengals Joe Burrow 4, and 5. I do have CJ Stroud.
Yeah,
just from what I saw last year.
Honestly, that's totally fair. I'm just giving Rodgers the veteran. I'm just respecting Aaron Rodgers' tenure as one of the all-time greats and putting him at 5, but CJ Stroud absolutely is a top guy.
And that's fair enough. But yeah, back to the Bills. I just think Joe Brady has to he's got to work to Josh Allen's strengths this year. And I haven't seen much of his passing game in preseason, so I'm slightly worried with his offense.
Last thing I want to touch on today before we get out of here is I brought up, like, this is an important legacy season for Josh Allen. I want to ask that same question with Sean McDermott. I think a very, very polarizing name amongst Bills Mafia. I think people love Sean McDermott for what he's accomplished as head coach of the Buffalo Bills. But I do think a lot of people, myself included, think that like they should have fired him 2 years ago and he's still here. And you just worry about the message running stale. And I think in today's NFL, having a defensive head coach is not ideal. I think if you look at teams, all the best teams, it's offensive head coach with a high-end quarterback. So, and I think there were guys available the last 2 years that you could have plugged in as head coach of the Bills that would have done what I said they need to do. Just take Josh Allen elevate the offense and Josh Allen with it. But the thing about this season, if they go on like a 2-game loser, I could see it getting very, very loud amongst Bills Mafia about Sean McDermott.
Yeah, he's the one person that I internally have him on the hot seat. He's been on my hot seat for the last year and a half, even though my hot seat doesn't matter. I don't run the team. But if I was running this team, I would have a very, very short lease for McDermott this year. He's done great for the organization. I'm not taking anything away from what he's done. He's helped us get to where we're at now. But you're right. His messaging, I think, is running stale with the group. I'm not sure what his relationship is with Josh. I can see them sort of, he's a defensive guy. Josh probably doesn't have much to relate with him about.
Yes.
So I could see that, that relationship is probably not in the best state.
I don't like that. I don't like that. Like, I don't like that. I want my head coach and my quarterback to be in simpatico. Like, I want them to be like you look around the league right now. Look at what Matt LaFleur did with Jordan Love last year. Look at what's happening with Sean Payton and Bo Nix, like a rookie. He's just taking him under his wing and
in Miami too, like
Tua and Mike McDaniel. Like, just take a look around the league, man. Like, to me, I don't love the vibe That's the best way to put it. I don't love the vibe.
I agree, and I think McDermott's a bit too old school. Like even
Yes.
like his speech fiasco from last season, like
Oh,
he
yes.
tries so hard to be like this macho football guy, and it's the least kind of changing. I don't really think you need that unless you're Andy Reid. Like Andy Reid has all the accolades. He's got everything going for
Andy
him.
Reid's offensive coach, though.
And he's offensive, but I mean,
Yeah.
he's old school, sort of, tooth and nail kind of coach, but more
Yes.
of a player guy. McDermott just tries to be like this military leader. And that message does not work, especially with the newer generations coming in from the draft. Like
Yes.
that's not the way to get to them anymore.
No, no, not at all. Well, you saw the quotes from not that I'm saying that McDermott's Brian Flores, but did you see the quote from Tua the other day where he just kind of buried Brian Flores and was
I
like,
did, yeah.
that's awful. And like, and you look at like Brian Flores is from the Belichick coaching tree, and you look at some of these like all the coaches that are excelling in the league right now. Your McVay's, your Kyle Shanahan's, your Matt LaFleur's, your Mike McDaniels, all kind of younger guys by NFL coaching standards, and all like can relate to the modern day player. But then you've got good old Andy Reid, who is still doing, who is once again the favorite to, they're chasing history this year and they know it. And it's, yeah, yeah. So that's going to be something we're really going to follow and observe. That's something I'm going to come to the table with every week this year, is just observing this dynamic between Allen and McDermott. To me, that's, the NFL is so, it's so like that, where it's like everybody needs to be pulling in the same direction, and the best organizations, the most well-run organizations, is everyone is singularly focused. And I don't get that vibe from McDermott and Allen. I just don't.
You never see them interacting. You never see them sort of like Tua having good times with McDaniels on the side. Like you'll never see that in Buffalo.
Exactly.
I also think it's like, this may sound silly, but these young coaches grew up playing Madden. They
Yes.
probably have a whole bunch of new schemes just from Madden that old coaches haven't seen, especially a coach like McDermott.
Yes.
So like, there's new
100%.
ideas that I think were, especially with a guy like Josh, like a new idea in offense would be like, just watching him execute those would be amazing.
100%. 100%, buddy. Completely agree. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week's episode. We're probably going to keep these, like, unless we have one week where we have a lot on our chest, we're probably going to keep these in the 20 to 30-minute range. No need to overstay our welcome. So, launching our new YouTube channel, launching our new podcast feed on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, anywhere you get them. Hit that like and subscribe button. We're building this baby from scratch. Every little bit helps. So if you could do your part, give us some love. We would really, really appreciate it. We'll see you guys next week.